Awesome, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us on the International Euphonium Summit series. We have an amazing guest. I'm Nicholas Haffter von Heide, host, and we have our guest, Lucy Pankhurst, composer extraordinaire from England. I was going to say from the UK, but England most specifically. Welcome to the summit.
Thank you very much. Thank you for the invitation.
Absolutely. So, as you know before, if this is your 100th time, like I said, hop back on over to listen to the podcast before, after, as we're doing this segment. There is a really cool segment before this and the interaction between Lucy and I with kind of a new piece that has been rolling along in the works here that's going to be premiered in UNT apparently, and hopefully I'll get to go hear the piece. It sounds really amazing, a lot of symbolism, and especially when it comes to dice. So I won't spoil the beans or even have a pair of loaded dice on this, but I will say it's really awesome. Go check that out. I'll leave the links below. Uh, and again, thank you so much for joining us from England, Lucy Pankhurst.
Yeah, no problem at all. I'm so sorry it's been such an early start for you.
Oh no, no. I mean, I had the schedules opened to accommodate, the scheduling and everybody's work life. It's been over the last 3 months, as this has, well, rather 2 months. Wow, it's only been not even 2 months. 2 months to the date yesterday that I formed Farm for Dreams, the foundational element to the International Euphonium Summit, and then started reaching out, and then getting all the support that I've received, as well as the compliments and just the encouragement that our community has. It's really amazing. And having artists from China, from the Ukraine, from England, from South Africa, from Germany, from I think I said Italy already, from Canada, from South America, um, from around the world. It's been really it's a real encouragement and also a sense of accountability, just because you know I got the dice moving, and I want to keep going to get the highest roll possible. Yes, these are all puns to the podcast beforehand, so um, just saying, if you want to get to know more about Lucy Pankhurst, well, this is the place to learn her inspirations, her upbringing, her principles, just her in her true essence, and come alongside the journey and see where we can make make the biggest moves possible for not only the euphonium world, but for your life as a musician, as a parent, to support your aspiring musician, or a parent that has a thirst or a hunger for composing, or whatever limits you place on yourself. So let's roll. Lucy Pankhurst, thank you again for coming on. Want you take us back, and let's start with your first experience with music.
Um, I was actually a relatively late starter with things. So, in terms of learning to play an instrument, I was 13 when I started. So I I was already in the school choir. So this is at high school, and myself and a small group of friends, we were actually in the choir, and that was, I really enjoyed that. And then one day, I don't really know what kind of kicked it off, but one day it just popped in my head that I need to play the trumpet.
Trumpet.
I don't think I was even 100% sure what a trumpet was. I just knew I needed to play it, and that was it. So I took myself off to the music department at school, and yeah, announced to the teacher, yeah, I'd like to play the trumpet. But there weren't any trumpets available, so the teacher just kept saying, well, just wait. If you come back in a few weeks, there might be one available, because there was like a turnaround with students trying it out and then giving it up, as there always is at that age. So I kept going back. I pretty much went back every day. Just had this bee in my bonnet about the fact I need to play the trumpet, need to play the trumpet. So I think it must have been about 6 weeks until the teacher just got totally fed up with me, and she said, right, there's a tenor horn in the cupboard, you can have that, take it home, it's the same, it's just a bit bigger, you play it in exactly the same way, I'll get it out the cupboard, you can take it home until we've got a trumpet, just to keep me quiet and keep me away from her, I think. So yeah, I took the tenor horn home. I think I had it for about maybe a week or two before I was kind of scheduled onto the lesson list with the teacher we had there. So the teacher was actually my sort of classroom music teacher. It was her husband that taught brass. So I had my first lesson with him actually on my 13th birthday, which wasn't planned, it's just how it worked out. And by that point, I'd already figured out off my own steam kind of how to make a noise on it. No, notice I was saying noise, not sound. And yeah, figured out what the buttons did, and I was yeah, really like excited about it. And from that point on, that was it. I was absolutely in love with it. So a few months later, a trumpet became available, and yeah, I didn't want it. I'd found my
So you stuck
instrument.
with the tenor horn.
So, yeah, so I think I was quite lucky, really, because I think if I had have started on trumpet, I don't think I'd have progressed quite as quickly.
And you wouldn't have a logo.
It was just not. Yeah, that's it. Or it'd be different, wouldn't it?
Certainly.
Yeah, so I was quite lucky, because I think not everyone just slots straight in with the first instrument they try. But it just so happened, call it fate, if you will, if you want to be dramatic. But yeah, it just so happened that was my instrument. So that was my first instrument.
So when you were so bent on, or tilted rather, in picking up trumpet, did you tell your parents that you wanted to play trumpet and you were going to the band director every single day?
Yeah. In fact, when I came home with the horn, I got my mum to write a letter to the music teacher to say, thank you for providing Lucy with a tenor horn. It's very kind of you. However, when a trumpet is available, can you please make sure she has first refusal? So yeah, I remember taking this letter in saying, the next trumpet is mine, sort of thing. But yeah, just I didn't want it. I didn't need it.
So
I found my instrument.
What did your parents think when you brought that tenor horn in and you wanted the trumpet? Did they know the difference between?
No, no, none of us did. There aren't any other musicians in my family, so that's what I mean. It was just incredibly random. I just woke up one day, and it was just some random idea that popped into my head that was just like, yeah, this is something I've got to do. So I don't even know where that could have come from. I just decided one day I've got to play the trumpet.
Well, that's really.
So I didn't know anyone that played brass. It didn't. There's no one in my family. I didn't know anything about brass bands or orchestra. I knew nothing. Just yeah, had it in my head. Yeah, that looks good. I want to do that.
That's really fantastic. That seems to be the word of the morning for me with my one cup of coffee here. Um, which, yeah. So, your parents, your first lesson was on your 13th birthday.
Purely by chance. Yeah.
Yeah. What did you have to drive to go to that lesson? And what were your parents' thoughts when you wanted to do the lessons?
So I consider myself very lucky for a number of reasons, and one of them is that it just so happened that the school that I was at, my high school, um, we had free lessons. They were sort of subsidised by the school, I think it must have been, or like something, some sort of funding was just paid for them, so we didn't actually have to pay initially. So I'd get a free 20-minute lesson every week. But as I say, I progressed, without meaning to sound funny, I progressed quite quickly. So within 6 months, I'd done grade 3, sort of thing. It all happened quite quick. So although we were scheduled for 20 minutes, I used to end up staying there for ages. I shouldn't say this really, should I? So yeah, it was sort of on a rotation, so you weren't supposed to miss the same lessons, every week, because you'd literally have to take some time out of your school day to go and have your lesson, then go back to class. But yeah, if like the next student didn't turn up for their lesson, I would quite often just stay and have a little bit longer. But it was all essentially for us. It was the teacher did get paid, but for us it was free. And yeah, my parents were great about it. It was they were just happy for me to give it a go, really. I don't know if they expected it to go anywhere. But I wasn't particularly faddy as a kid, I don't think. I'd kind of hyperfixate on things. So like I've still got an interest in it now, but at one point I was adamant I was going to be an archaeologist, because of like an Egyptologist, sorry, because I've quite, got really big fascination with that side of things. And I was always quite good at art as well, so I had a massive interest in that. So music was just like some random thing, as I say, that just jumped out of nowhere. But they've always been supportive, and they know that if I was going to do something, I take it quite seriously. But yeah, I do, as I say, got this sort of hyperfixation, and but it's not things that I discard necessarily afterwards. It's just like I get so intense about it and so interested, and then yeah, music was just sort of this next thing. And because it was something different, yeah, I think they were quite happy for me to try it out. I used to have to practice in the bathroom, because that was the furthest away from the neighbours. But there was a great acoustic in the bathroom, so I didn't mind.
Right?
Yeah, but yeah, they were absolutely fine about it. As I say, I don't know if they expected it to go anywhere, but they were, yeah, fully supportive of it. And I think because I showed right from the off, like I practiced, I played every day. But to begin with, as I say, I didn't really know what I was doing. I was just making noise on it. But yeah, they were just happy for me to. It just wasn't really something to keep me quiet, was it? Because I was very noisy with it. But yeah, really supportive and happy for me to be trying something different, I think.
So what was going through the band director's head? And this girl is coming up to me asking for a trumpet every single day, and then he goes, "Okay, so here's a tenor horn. Go take that home." And you come back and you start, taking these lessons. What's going? Has your band director ever told you like that, like first phase of like what's going through his mind at all, or related to you, like his side of the story?
Um, I'm not sure really, because I mean, initially, as I say, the teacher that I kept going to was she became my GCSE teacher. So for before you go on to do A levels and then off to university, like the structure that we have over here. So and she was also in charge of the senior choir, which was like the sort of the older years of high school. And I'm still in touch with her now, and with my old brass teacher, her husband. So I've speak to them quite regularly, and she still sort of regales the story about the trumpet and how annoying I was. So she knew that I was very keen, obviously, and she knew who I was because I was in the choir and things like that, and I was always very well behaved and things in class. So she knew me as a as a student. But my actual brass teacher, Tony Whittingham, which was Janet Whittingham's husband, he yeah, so as I say, I'm still in touch with him as well, and I think he was. I don't know really. I'm not asked him outright about what he thought about the situation, but I think he liked the fact that I was so intrigued about it, I think.
Well, that and
And
determined, it sounds
yeah,
like.
yeah, I don't know why. It's just yeah, just woke up one morning and decided that was what needed to happen. But yeah, he was great. He was again super supportive, and he was a really really positive mentor because not only he's a trombonist, so not only was he a really good kind of role model for as a player, he conducted all. So we had a little band in school, but it's it a little bit different to I think the way things are done in the US. So we don't have like a sort of band system. So not every school had its own band. We had kind of band, a band that had loads of schools from around that area that kids would go to and play. So I eventually joined a band. It's actually in Warrington, which is like the next town over from us. So I joined a band over there, wind band. I didn't do any brass band playing at first, which is weird as a tenor horn player.
That's what I was
But
gonna.
there weren't any brass bands. Yeah, there were no brass bands in this area. So all of my first kind of ensemble things were all wind bands. I didn't really play in a proper brass band, as in like kind of championship level, until I went to music college, like when I was 18, and
Wow.
just suddenly dropped into this completely different culture, like an absolute baptism of fire. It was terrifying. So, going from not knowing anything, not even knowing who Sandy Smith was, like one of the best tenor horn players of the generation sort of thing. And then, yeah, all of a sudden, plonk, there you go. I was at the RNCM with players like Owen Farr, Dave Childs, Dave Thornton, John Doyle, Helen Tyler, as she was then. So she was at college at the same time as me. And yeah, it was just a completely different world. But all of my first playing was wind band stuff. But that was also quite good because it meant that I had to learn how to transpose quite early on as well, which I think as a composer is very useful because it doesn't kind of fry, especially if you're writing for brass band and things, it doesn't quite fry your brain as much as it might do for composers that are used to working in orchestral terms more than anything. Yeah.
I have a question for you on the.
Mm.
It's interesting listening to all your works that I have access to. How do you refer to the piano at all, or is this just some like where does piano fit in all this? Like, was it at all before RENCM RNCM the in Manchester or
The piano doesn't factor in at all, if I'm honest. Um, So I like to play tenor horn was my first thing, and as I said before that, I was in choirs,
right?
and I was an alto slash mezzo. So I think maybe that has quite a significant point as well because I wasn't just on the tune, so I was aware from like harmonies and things from the inside, figuring out how my part fitted in with everything else. And then I suppose the horn kind of has a similar sort of role in our ensembles too, as a being in that part in a choir. Um, so yeah, I started off on the tenor horn when I was about 16. Again, just a random decision. I decided I wanted to learn how to play trombone.
Oh wait,
So
hold on. So you went you went from choir to wanting to play trumpet like out of nowhere, then
yeah,
playing playing tenor horn at 13, taking your first lesson on your birthday, which is really that's a really symbolic time for a lot of cultures. Is 13,
Hmm.
and then 3 years later, you picked up trombone.
Yeah.
It,
I don't really know why. It just looked like fun. So this was at the same time as we would be doing our GCSEs, so like the big exams before you go off to do A levels, which then after that you go on to university.
okay, so
Um,
really quick, for those
mhm.
of us that aren't privileged to understand the England and the UK system of education here, uh, from my understanding, limited, and Lucy can well educate us all, is that sounds like upperclassmen studies the last like year or two before university.
Yeah. So yeah, so sort of 17, 18 when you're around that age. So that
Okay,
it's
so
what we
junior
call
senior.
year 12 and 13. Um, which is yeah, when you sort of 18, that's sort of off to university then, but 18, 19. Um, yeah, so this was when I was 16. So what the first like big exams that I was, like academic exams that I was having to do. Yeah, I decided it'd be a great idea to start learning trombone at the same time. But as I say, my teacher was a trombonist
Right.
anyway, and he was just happy to. He sort of said, like, well, it's a different size mouthpiece, it's a different pitch. Um, are you sure about this? And I was like, yeah, great, because it didn't particularly bother me changing from instrument to instrument. Um, so like some of the ensembles that I was in, it sounds like it sounds, it's not something that I think you would do now, like in a post-COVID era kind of thing. But I'd sort of turn up at the ensemble and play whatever was needed. So if a horn was needed, yeah, fine, play horn. If they needed a cornet or a flugel or something, yeah, step in and play that. Uh, did euphonium and tuba once or twice as well. But if there was a spare instrument and there was a part that needed putting in, I'd just go off and do it. Um, so yeah, trombone was kind of the missing link because that didn't have valves. So I need to understand how this works. I think that was what my
But
brain was
okay,
telling me.
that makes sense. It's like, as a child, I think there's a lot of kids that, especially my 4 year old, who loves to find out how things work and loves that big
Yeah.
white book, right? And like we got him the baritone, and he has that plastic J horn because I won't let him
Oh,
touch.
amazing. Yeah.
I won't let him touch my brass instruments just yet.
Yeah.
And so, um, getting that curiosity, I think, is a big thing. It sounds like your parents definitely support. Did your band director give you a trombone to take home?
Yeah, so that was another thing, as well as the free lessons the school had. That's why I was waiting for this trumpet, because they did have some instruments, but not loads. So although there were lessons available, it was kind of first come first served.
Hmm.
Um, and yeah, you just had to. Although you could use these instruments like as long as you were at the school, um, that yeah, if there were no instruments, there was no, unless you had your own instrument, you
Right.
couldn't have lessons and things.
So what
And
did
I
you?
think I probably found the trombone in the cupboard and said like, oh, can I have a go with this? And then took that home, and yeah, my mum and dad were a bit like, oh, okay, got a trombone now, great. um yeah, so that one I was definitely banished to the bathroom to play, because it was, my mum said it was a lot louder. I think because of the directional element of the sound, whereas the horn's a bit more mellow, isn't it? It goes up into the rafters, but yeah, the trombone felt a lot louder at home, I think. um yeah, great fun.
So tenor horn and the trombone bell are almost identical, right?
Mm.
So that makes me think of kind of the plunger mutes and how you can put those in. I mean, you're in the bathroom, and I know you wouldn't want to use that particular plunger, but did you ever experiment with different mutes, or was that part
Yeah, so I didn't have a lot of them, but I had just a straight mute. to begin with, which kind of fitted. So it was tenor trombone. So it fitted my trombone, but it doesn't quite fit in a horn. Bass trombone's better for horn, just because it's slightly wider bore at the neck sort of thing. But yeah, I did did have a little mess around with mutes and things, but it wasn't until I went to music college that I kind of thought about that a little bit more, and had more realization about the different options really. Um, but yeah, I did have a little play around, and I had a practice mute as well. But again, because it was a tenor trombone one, it was not quite didn't quite fit, so I had to modify it slightly with a cloth or something I had around it, I think, which didn't quite work. But yeah, so I did play around a little bit, but didn't have many options till a little bit later on.
Well, that's
For that.
fantastic. I think this is a great segue into our next in series with composer Lucy Pankhurst on this first in series. Oh man, what a delight! I had no idea. So with that being said, head over back to the podcast for those that are know about the podcast. Find your favorite one below and follow this conversation over into that segment, and we will see you all next time. Thank you again, Lucy Pankhurst, for diving into your 13 through 17-ish years. And wow, just wow, what a different orientation and perspective. I, yeah, wow. Anyway, thank you all for watching on the International Euphonium Summit series here on the YouTube and wherever you're watching this on. If you enjoyed this, please, with all appreciation, and we'd be honored to share this with your local school programs, communities, other musicians, and the sorts. Um, until next time, everyone, thanks for stopping by. Go over to the podcast and take a listen. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.